is mandated under Article 49(2)(c) of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community to, among others, consider the annual reports on the activities of the community. Further, Article 59(3)(a) of the Treaty provides that the Council shall publish annually and present to a meeting of the Assembly a general report on the activities of the community, in which the Assembly shall consider at its meetings. Article 48(3) and Article 49(2)(e) of the Treaty also mandate the Assembly to establish committees for the effective discharge of its mandate. This is especially in accordance with Rule 81(1)(c) and 81(1)(2) of the Rules of Procedures of the Assembly. The East African Community annual reports are considered by the Committee on General Purpose and adopted by the Assembly. The first version of the EAC annual report for 2014-15 was tabled by the Chairperson, Council of Ministers before the Assembly during the third meeting of the fifth session of the Third Assembly on 25th of November 2016 in Nairobi, Kenya. The report was recalled by the Chairperson of the Council of Ministers. It was decided that the report be reviewed and presented to the Third Assembly before August 2017. Subsequently, a revised version of the report was tabled on 25th April 2018 in Dodoma, United Republic of Tanzania, during the fourth meeting of the first session of the Fourth Assembly. Pursuant to the above treaty provisions and rules of procedures of the Assembly, the Committee on General Purpose convened on 21st to 25th August 2018 at the EAC headquarters in Arusha, the United Republic of Tanzania, to consider the revised version of the EAC annual report for 2014-15 and presents its report to this august House for adoption. Right Honorable Speaker, under the methodology during the meetings of the committee first reviewed and analyzed the revised EAC annual report for 2014-15 against the report of the Committee on General Purpose tabled on 31st May 2017, as well as the first version of the report that was recalled by the Council of Ministers. Secondly, the committee interacted with Mr. Wilberforce Mariki, the Director Planning, and Mr. Samson Manirakiza, the Senior Monitoring and Evaluation Officer from the EAC Secretariat, who were delegated by the Secretary General, Honorable Ambassador Liberate Mfuko. I have my good friend's name, second name usually challenges me a bit, Honorable Speaker, must admit, but I will practice it.
I will not ask you whether it is in, I will not, I will spare you. Asking you whether it is in order to mispronounce the name of the Secretary General.
I will spend more time with my friend so that I don't mispronounce his name next time. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, the committee interacted with the Council of Ministers and the Secretary General of the EAC on Tuesday, 25th September 2018. Findings and observations. The first version of the EAC annual report for 2014-15. The committee considered and took note of the report of the Committee on General Purpose on the EAC annual report 2014-15 held on the 31st May 2017. The Assembly noted that there was no significant difference between the previous one of 2013-14, which the Assembly found inadequate in terms of substance and content, facts, statistics, clarity, analysis, as well as actionable interventions to influence policy formulation and legislation in the EAC. Consequently, the Assembly urged the Council of Ministers to fully assume responsibility as prescribed by Article 14.2 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community to monitor and keep under constant review the implementation of programs of the community. Further emphasis was placed on Article 49(2)(c) and 59(3)(a), which provides for the production and presentation of the annual report on the activities of the community to the Assembly. The Assembly further urged the Council of Ministers to present the Third Assembly the EAC annual report for the financial year not later than the month of August 2017, specifically before the pre-budget conference. The Assembly urged the Council of Ministers to ensure that the quality of the EAC annual report is improved and to further ensure the timely presentation of the annual report to the Assembly to inform the budget process of the subsequent financial year. The chairperson of the Council of Ministers therefore recalled the report and undertook to table a revised version before the House. Following the debate, the Assembly did not adopt the EAC annual report for 2014-15. The revised version of the EAC annual report for the 2014-15, the committee considered the report and made the following observations. Now this is my committee, the committee of the fourth year. Number one, lack of timeliness of the revised report. The committee observed that the report was not timely at all since it was tabled on the 25th of April 2018 and did not adhere to the recommendations of the Third Assembly for the Council of Ministers to present the revised version by August 2017. The committee noted that it was almost a year since the 31st May 2017 when the report was recalled. Number two, partial fulfillment of basic requirements and presentation of incomplete information. The committee observed the following. First, number one, acronyms used are not all defined, and the financial statements presented on page 61 and 63 were only for three organs of the community, namely the EAC Secretariat, the East African Legislative Assembly, and the East African Courts of Justice. The statements of EAC institutions are missing. The committee observed that the report is also not smartly bound and its presentation is below the expected standards. Thirdly, it was further noted that the use of relevant facts, statistics, and analysis is still missing, limited, and some graphics are missing. An example is found on page 70 under the EACJ, where that's the East African Court of Justice, where the graphics have been introduced but are completely missing. The report is expected to report on analysis of facts and figures that are comprehensive, that are comparative to given base years, including from previous reports, showing a consistent trend with the conclusions and meaningful action points. Fourthly, the report was found to contain no pictures. These were removed as a response to the comments by the Assembly on the first version of the report on wrongly captioned pictures that were considered inappropriate and disrespectful to the individuals who are erroneously named. However, the committee is of the view that the pictures, if relevant and accurately captioned, can still be used to enrich the document and should not be completely excluded. Number three, a marked improvement in specific aspects of the report. The committee noted an improvement in some aspects of the revised report in terms of chronology and coherence in narrations, layouts, and presentation, whereby the planned activities based on the operational plan was followed by achievements, implementation status of budget execution, and finally challenges in that order. However, this is still not consistent, whereby some institutions did not reflect planned activities, including the Lake Victoria Basin Commission, that's LVBC, on page 76, and the Inter-University Council for the East African Community, that's the IUCEA, on page 85. In instances where planned activities were reported, the activities that were not implemented are neither reported or no reasons given for non-implementation, as is the case with Civil Aviation's Safety and Security Oversight Agencies, SOA, on page 73. Number four, the need to improve relevant references to strategic EAC policy documents and the pillars of integration. The committee observed that there is no reference made to the EAC development strategy and the pillars of integration. The due reference to policy documents should also include summary directives, council decisions, as well as assembly recommendations and resolutions. There is also a need for monitoring and evaluation tools that report on the performance and are used in reporting and the linkages therein. In the same context, all relevant working documents that inform the annual reports should be available to the committee to facilitate review of the report. These documents may also be presented in summary form and include the annual operational plans, the biannual or quarterly activity reports showing the implementation status as well as projections for the coming financial year. Number 5, the need for set structured formats for the EAC annual reports. The committee observed that there is no set structure format to the report. The Assembly has continuously called for a report that is suitable for parliamentary scrutiny and is able to inform policy and legislations as well as reflect the true picture of the community. It should clearly reflect set priorities, challenges, gaps, opportunities, and way forward. The committee finds this a reflection of the EAC staff who do not take their assignment seriously enough during compilations. Furthermore, there is still need for professional editing and final proofreading to create a comprehensive style with the coherence, consistency, and uniformity. Number 6, the need to reflect changes beyond monetary and funding matters. In this regard, the committee referred to the exhaustive manner in which the challenges are reported on as funding and monetary almost uniformly in all organs and institutions without stating the actionable issues that can be focused on or explored. These include the need for changes in mindset for a more positive perception of the integration process by people of the East Africa, the salient reasons for non-ratification of protocols, non-assent to, and non-domestication of EAC acts. The solutions the community has proposed and the implementation should be highlighted, as well as the status of implementation and tangible results for further so far realized. These have not been reported on, giving rise to the need for the report to be alive to contemporary issues and challenges and reflect them with tangible solutions. On 4.0, meeting with the ministers in charge of the EAC affairs on the 25th of September 2018 is today. The committee held a meeting with the ministers responsible for EAC affairs, led by Honorable Julius Wandera Danda, Deputy Minister in charge of the EAC affairs, Republic of Uganda, Honorable Isabella Bahaya, Minister in the Office of the President, responsible for East African Community Affairs, Republic of Burundi, Honorable Moses Kiel, Minister of Trade, Industry and the East African Affairs, Republic of South Sudan, and Honorable Dr. Susan Kolimba, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and East Africa Cooperation, United Republic of Tanzania. Also present was Honorable Adam Mohammed, the incoming Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of East African Community and Northern Corridor Development for the Republic of Kenya, as well as an observer and the EAC Secretary General, Honorable Ambassador Liberet Mukeko. The Honorable Chairperson, Council of Ministers expressed appreciation for the efforts of the committee in considering the EAC annual report for 2014-2015. Honorable Maganda informed the committee that the improvements the committee had recommended were as a result of the Council over the years taking note of the recommendations by the Assembly and undertook to ensure further improvements in the EAC annual reports, particularly since a format had been formulated. With regards to the timelines of the report, the Honourable Minister informed the committee that a format had been formulated and the Secretariat has a report writing committee that compiles and presents a report, prepares the report. It is therefore expected that the quality of the report will improve further and be tabled accordingly. He further reminded the committee that the report for 2015-16 was already before the Committee on General Purpose, while the report of 2016-17 was undergoing the final process in the Office of the Secretary General and will be tabled in the ongoing meetings of the Assembly. With regard to a given timeframe, the committee was informed that since the audited accounts of the community were expected to be contained in the annual report, the ideal timeframe for tabling is at least 6 months after the financial year under review. The Council of Ministers will, as much as possible, endeavour to adhere to this timeframe. Honourable Maganda further assured the committee that the EAC annual report is only circulated in the partner states after adoption of the report by the Assembly. The Honourable Minister, on behalf of the Council of Ministers, assured the committee that the Secretariat is determined to continuously improve its systems by adhering to quality management standards, particularly since the EAC is international organization of standardization ISO certified. The EAC is one of the only 2 ISO certified regional economic communities. All EAC processes are continuously improved, including taking into account the recommendations of the Assembly with regards to the EAC annual report. Under recommendations, Right Honourable Speaker, the committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers on the following. Number 1, to strictly adhere to Article 14.2 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community. This will include review of the report before they are presented to the Assembly to ensure quality control in terms of, among others, facts, figures, analysis, general presentation, and layout. The approved format should be consistently adhered to. Recommendation number 2, to table before the Assembly all pending annual reports, that is 2016-17, 2017-18. Therefore, thereafter, the reports should be presented in a timelier manner to inform the budget process of the subsequent financial year, adhering to the month of February following the end of the financial year under review. Recommendation number 3, to include complete financial statements of all organs and institutions, as well as annexes necessary for review of the annual report, as pointed out in part 3.2.4 of this report. In conclusion, Right Honourable Speaker, the committee appreciates the achievements that the Council of Ministers reported on at that point in time, that is 2014-15, including regional infrastructure developments with improvements in road connectivity and operations across the region, harmonization of the national road standards, design and construction of dual carriageways sections along the northern corridor, as well as operationalization of the one-stop border posts vehicle load control and promotion of the EAC as a single investment destination. Progress has continued to be registered in these regional projects and many others. The committee noted a significant improvement in the new version of the report, but is of the view that further improvements need to be done in the future. In that regard, the committee, Right Honourable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends to the House to adopt the report of the committee on the second version of the EAC Annual Report 2014-15. Right Honourable Speaker, sir, I beg to move the motion. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Abdikadir, Chair, Committee on General Purpose. Honorable members, the motion before the House is that the East African Community Annual Report of Activities for the period 2014-2015 be adopted. Debate is open. But before I proceed, may I ask when did you get the actual report? When is this document? You didn't get it in time? So I think the Office of the Clerk needs to know that even when we send a report to a committee for consideration, a substantive original report must be made available to the members. Because otherwise, how do you debate a report you have not seen? So I think that should be the practice from now. Make sure that any report that is referred to the committee is also available to the members, so that when we come here, we have both the committee report and the original substantive report. Nevertheless, we shall proceed with the debate, and if there is going to be any serious inconvenience, I will note in the process and we will find some remedial measures. Before the debate is open, Honorable Mariam Usi.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity to speak. First of all, I would like to thank all members for their messages of condolences since the tragic event happened here in Tanzania. And for you, Right Honourable Speaker, for conveying the message on our behalf, we thank you as well. And we pray for the soul to rest in eternal peace. Right Honourable Speaker, first of all, let me declare that I'm a member of General Purpose Committee, and I was a former member of General Purpose Committee. I served 5 years back. So I stand here, first of all, as a former member, to thank the Council Chair of Ministers and the Secretariat, because the time we arrived here in 2012, as I said in the committee, we approved so many annual reports from 2007 onwards up to this annual report that we approved now. So there is a lot of improvement for us who've been there before. We acknowledge that, and we thank the Secretariat and the Chair Council of Ministers. Right Honourable Speaker, honourable members, during our discussion with the Council of Ministers, one of the major challenges that happened is lack of staffing. And we were explaining this was due to the delay of finishing of institutional review. So the Chair Council and the Secretary General has promised us changes to the annual report, which is I established that we've been seeing so far. But I would like also to avail to them that they should make sure the institutional review is finalized, because we have lack of staff, which actually contributes to this report being poorly presented. So the institutional review has been a demon for almost 8 years, has not been finalized. So without finalizing it and sorting out the problem of staffing, we will continue to be on the same side. I will also give an example. For example, in the gender death, we had only one lady. So we can see there is a lot of problems in the secretariat in terms of staff. Of course, we as members, we receive the work, but the people who are supposed to work on it, they are very few. But also the problem of funding came through, that the funding is normally not available enough for the work to be done on time. But I would like to remind the council chair that to keep up his promise, and he actually, in the past, we used to have the annual report very late. Sometimes we'll be given 2 annual reports to approve at once that were already gone out to the public. But now this has been changed, and we appreciate the Chair Council for their effort, but also for him to keep up his promise to bring this annual report on time, but also to put into consideration the issue of finalizing the institutional review so that we will get enough staffing, adequate staffing, so that our report will continue to improve. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I support the report.
Thank you. Honorable members, I'm sure you're happy to see General Aburi moving around here. So we are happy, Honorable Aburi, that you are back after the challenges you went through. Honorable Ambassador Fatuma Ndangizo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Let me first take this opportunity to express my condolences to the people of the United Republic of Tanzania for the recent tragedy that happened in Lake Victoria. And we wish that those who passed on may rest in peace. And also that for the families and all the people, we know that this is a very difficult time. We really stand with you, and it's a great loss to the people of East Africa. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Minister Aden Mohamed, the Minister of East African Community and Northern Corridor from the Republic of Kenya, who have just joined us today, and we commit that really this is a strong assembly, very dynamic, and we look forward to work with you, Honorable Minister. Having said that, I also want to thank Honorable Aden Abdulkadir, the chairperson of General Purpose, and indeed through you to congratulate General Purpose Committee for this scrutinizing the report. And really what you gave us shows that there's still a lot of work to do. And I'm happy that you've met the ministers before you came here. So I really want to start by asking, and I don't know who's going to answer some of my questions, because although there could be challenges with staffing, but there is no explanation as to why, as a community, we are discussing the report of 2014-2015 in 2018. So as an assembly that is in charge of accountability, I think this is unacceptable. We really request the ministers to give us proper explanation. What is the problem? Is it lack of staff? But even if you lack staff, you can even hire consultants to do it for you. But even the staff, however few they are, reporting is an accountability function. As long as you have the budget, you need to report. And I would also like to challenge our accounts committee and the General Purpose. The next time when you have late reports, there's no reason why you should even pass the budget. Because this is the money, the resources of the people of this community. So I also want to know the basis of this report. Because in my view, reporting is part of the long cycle of planning. You have the planning process. Do you have a strategic plan? Do you have an operational plan? Do you have a monitoring and evaluation framework So I just want to know the basis of this report, because reading through, I don't see the basis. And I know that East Africa has got a 2050 vision. We have a development plan. We have, I imagine, very many blueprints that are guiding our work. But when I read through, I don't see the basis of this planning. So the last point I have is on this issue of the institutional review. It's something that has been coming up all the time, and I'm sure it's been done from time to time, but I don't know what's happening. Is it done for the sake of doing it? What's the purpose? I know a lot of resources have been spent to this institutional review, and if the purpose of the institutional review is to improve performance in our community, why is it that this institutional review is not coming to an end? So I also wanted the ministers, when they're answering, to tell us what is when are we going to have a final institutional review. But before that, I hope there should be improvements. The next time we don't talk about 2014 and 2015, we should be having reports on time. Thank you.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I am struggling to debate this report because I do not have the facts. Honestly, I think we are doing a disservice, and it is my humble request that we read this report before we debate it. Otherwise, that debate is going to be so general, and we are not going to touch the actual issues. I'll give you an example. Mr. Speaker, when the Chair General Purpose was presenting, he actually mentioned that this report does not cover the work of the institutions. It's talking about the organs and not the institutions. But when I look at the table of contents, I see the institutions of EAC covered. And of course, I have not looked at the content. So I cannot judge them right or wrong. So, Mr. Speaker, it's my humble request that we are given at least a day and we read this report so that we can give you substantial debate rather than talking about generalities. We are not going to talk about the content. This is my humble view. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let me give you direction on this. First of all, I think we should apologize to you, all our members, that we surprise you with the documents in the chamber when documents should be available to you in good time for you to prepare accordingly. And I promise that the Office of the Clerk will not make the same mistake again. So in the meantime, I understand members who are not part of who are not sitting in the General Purpose Committee are just seeing this report for the first time, and they are not in the position to debate it. So we can proceed with those who have read it, and I will interrupt this item. I will not put a question until when everybody will have read it. I think procedurally that is possible. So instead of suspending it right away, let those who, particularly those who sit in General Purpose Committee, because they have read the report, those who are willing to debate it can do so. And when I realize that there is no one willing to debate, I will interrupt the item and carry it forward for another day. So, is there any other member who wants to debate the report? So, not even members from the General Purpose Committee? It would be a serious risk if you didn't read it as well. Because the practice of this house is that even members of the committee that handled the report also debate it, because that is what gives direction to those who don't sit in respective committees. But it's fine. if no one is willing to debate the report for now, I shall interrupt this item. Honorable Kasamba.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. First of all, allow me also to convey my deepest condolences to the people of the East Africans who perished in the MV Nyerere on the 21st of this month. I would like also to take this opportunity to welcome our new minister in the chambers. And Right Honorable, I just want to request that for us to make very effective debate on these annual reports, if we got this report on the floor, and we got the reports of 2016 and 2017, it will give us a very good comparative analysis of what has changed. So I feel that we still have a lot of backlog, and I look at dwelling on looking at the report of 2014-2015. It is just informing us of what transpired. It would be very good. I appreciate Honorable Usi, Mariam, who has given that in the past it was even worse, and there is a lot of improvement. And that is a very good information which this House should commend, but we should get timely reports and have a basis. This should be now the basis for us to look at what has transpired ever since then, to make sure that we do the progressive analysis and the statistics of the various agencies and institutions of the organ on an annual basis. I will submit.
If I got you right, you're asking for the report for 2016? Do we have it anyway? So because we can only deal with the reports that have been previously introduced in the House. Honorable Adam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the report of 2015-16, which Honorable Kasamba is probably referring to, is indeed a property of the House, and I can confirm that it's before my committee. And indeed, learning from what is happening now, I would like to request that the clerks make that report available to members now, because the committee will be considering that report in due time. Right, Honorable Speaker, just also on a point of information, earlier, as Honorable Mary said, in my report, we pointed out that only the financial statements of certain institutions have not been presented. The report on the institutions is here, but there is missing bits in terms of the reports of the financial institutions. Right, Honorable Speaker, I don't know if we will have much time in terms of debate and the guidance of this report, but prior to this, as a member of this House, I also know of no time when we had an opportunity to see the report before the tabling of the committee's report. So I don't think we should adjourn the debate per se, because I have read the committee's summary of the report. So members are now privileged to debate based on the recommendations by the committee. I don't think there will be time enough for each member here to go and look at this report into a lot of details as the committee did. The committee did a lot of research work into that report and gave the following recommendations, which are hereby presented. And I urge the honourable members to quickly familiarize themselves with those particular recommendations, and therein now give their views of the report. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, I have guided on this, but let's hear a few more views. Honorable Dr. Makame.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I might have been absent-minded when you guided, and I thought you gave room for debates for the report to end by the
Okay, let's first resolve this. Some members have expressed the wish to read the report. They don't want to be limited to the committee report. And I think when we introduce a subject in the House, we must avail all the tools for members to be able to debate it extensively. So much as the committee has done a tremendous work to make it easy for us. But those of us, members who may wish to go beyond the committee report, I believe they should be given the opportunity to do so. So it's harmless for us to introduce this item tomorrow. I'm not thinking of delaying it longer than just a day. Honorable Minister, Council Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for giving the Council space to give some kind of guidance also. And want to thank the committee chair for the recommendations that were given. Mr. Speaker, this report has recommendations that we have kept improving. And I have a feeling that when we look at the recommendations that are given and the report that they are having on 2015-2016, which is before the committee, we will find that there is a lot of improvement. So in our discussion on the team, we will find that it's still compounding ourselves within the recommendation which we need to do as and for us as a council, we are accepting that these recommendations keep improving on our performance every day. So I would still believe, Mr. Chair, as much as this report has just been received to this House this morning, and members would really in their capacity wish to read and come and debate extensively. But the biggest percentage of this report has what I would call information, which I trust can still be a guiding principle in how we proceed. So I would just pray that we allow the report to be adopted, and then we could answer the few areas as a council where the members are raised the concern, and then we proceed with more business. Because we have improved, and I can say, Mr. Speaker, that we are even ready to table the report of 2016-17. We are ready to show you that we are moving in the right direction based on the report.
As a minister, you are putting the cart before the horse. And that was, of course, good news. There is improvement. But we are now dealing with the logistical aspect of it. Can we really proceed and debate when some members want time to read the report? So let me carry forward this item for tomorrow. So the clerk takes note. You already have the report, and we hope that the debate will actually reflect the time you request the report. So that's the way we are proceeding. Next item.
Item number 5 on the order paper, motion for resolution of the Assembly in respect of the deadly ferry disaster on Lake Victoria on Thursday, the 20th of September 2018.
Honorable Engineer Habib Nya.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Article 59 of the treaty and Rule of Procedure 26, I rise to move a motion for resolution of the Assembly to condole with the government and people of the United Republic of Tanzania over the tragic loss of life as a result of both deadly incident in Lake Victoria on Thursday, 20th September 2018. I beg to move.
Second. Honorable Gideon Gapatan, Honorable George Odongo, Honorable Dr. Kalinda, and all the members standing. Honorable Engineer Habibu Nya, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, guided by the fact that Lake Victoria is the largest inland freshwater body in Africa and the second largest inland fisheries in the world, supporting over 40 million inhabitants, as well as the most critical transboundary natural resource linking either directly or indirectly all over the partner states, which form the East African community. The Lake Victoria is shared directly by 3 partner states at 48% Tanzania, 46% for Uganda, and 6% for Kenya. In order for the lake's potential to be realized, there is a need for cooperation from the riparian government, who are the principal stakeholders. On 21st May 1996, MV Bukoba, the Lake Victoria ferry that carried passengers along cargo between the Tanzania port of Bukoba and Mwanza, sank 56 kilometers off Mwanza, killing up to 1,000 people. The official death toll record is 894. Mr. Speaker, sir, further guided by the fact that today the lake and its resources fuel the economies of Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. The lake and its catchment provide 90% of Uganda's hydropower for Burundi and Rwanda, and water supply for major urban centers like Kampala, Kigali, Mwanza, Kisumu, and Juba. Its fisheries support more than 3 million livelihoods and bring in about $500 billion in revenue annually. Tourists are drawn to iconic parks like Serengeti and volcanoes situated in the mountains, forests, and savannas of the basin. Honorable Speaker, sir, aware that MV Bukoba tragedy in 1996 led to the enactment of the Lake Victoria Transport Act 2007 to regulate, coordinate, and oversee maritime safety and security, search and rescue, aids to navigation, hydrography and charting, meteorology, communication, and to prevent marine pollution on the lake for the benefit of the partner states, and conscious of the fact that the possibility causes were identified and labeled as accident waiting to happen. As the Lake Victoria ferries disregarded the safety regulation, specifically lack of life jackets, lack of belts, life belts and lifeboats, lack of firefighting equipment, lack of distress signals. What equipment there was not regularly checked, overloads, the vessels were not regularly dried off for routine maintenance and repairs, and the vessels were not regularly inspected, and obsolete engines. Mr. Speaker, sir, noting with concern that on Thursday, 28 September 2018, the community received with great shock the sad news of another tragic and untimely death of more than 200 fellow East Africans, and only 41 survivors, following the sinking of MV Nyerere ferry, which was also carrying cargo, including sacks of maize, bananas, and cement, when it capsized about 50 meters from Ukara Dock in Lake Victoria. Ideally, the ferry had the capacity of carrying about 100 passengers and 20 tons. Mr. Speaker, sir, further aware that the community over the years has lost lives of thousands of East Africans through ferries, boats, and ships exchange in the coastal area of Mombasa, Tanga, Pemba, Nungwi, as a result of, let's say, MV Spice Island, which killed almost over 1,500 people and rescued only 620, and the MV Skagit, where about 146 people were rescued and 150 were missing. The Dar es Salaam, Rufiji, Kilwa, Lindi, Mtwara, Kimoni, Kilifi, Kwale, Vanga, Gaza, Tudo, Mtwapa, Mida, Ngomeni, Kiunga, and Lamu in the Indian Ocean, and Mwanza, Bukoba, Kisumu, Port Bell, Ukerewe, and most recent Ukara in Lake Victoria. Mr. Speaker, sir, recalling that an extraordinary meeting of the principal and permanent secretaries from 3 partner states took place on 6 September this month and this year in Kisumu, Kenya, with the agenda, among others, to fast-track the review of the technical aspect prior to construction of the regional maritime rescue and coordination centers in Mwanza, Tanzania, and sub-centers in Entebbe, Uganda, and Kisumu, Kenya. The meeting of principal and permanent secretary resolved and constituted a team of experts from 3 partner states to review and provide technical feedback, specifically on the design and bill of quantities for construction of maritime rescue and coordination centers. When members of the team and of experts had started the exercise, the ferry Evan Rere unfortunately capsized on 20 September 2018. Mr. Speaker, sir, further recording that the Marine Rescue Coordination Center shall be supported by 22 search and rescue units spread along the shoreline and equipped with telecommunication equipment as well as speedboats and the medical facilities rescue boat. This project will be implemented over a period of 4 years starting May 2018. Appreciating efforts by the government of the United Republic of Tanzania for the swift action it took after the incident, this in effect saved many lives that would have otherwise been lost. Mr. Speaker, sir, now therefore, this assembly hereby do resolve as follows. Urge the East African Council of Members to enforce the Lake Victoria Transport Act, which passed 11 years ago, and its regulation, namely Safety Regulation 2010 and Fees Regulation 2010. The implementation of this regulatory framework is vested with the Marine Administrative Unit that are to be established pursuant to the Act 2007 in each East African Community Partner State. Urge the East African Council of Ministers to install 86 aid and navigation equipment in the Lake Victoria in 3 partner states of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania to ensure safety of navigation in the lake. Urge the Ferries, Boats and Ships Regulation Authority and the personnel both in East African lakes and rivers, as well as in Indian Ocean, to always boat sober, make sure there is adequate safety equipment on board the boat, maintain the boat and all safety equipment properly, monitor weather and water condition carefully, load passengers and gear carefully, take an accredited boat safety course, be watchful and vigilant, maintain a safe speed, follow all boat and navigation rules. And last but not least, urge all the East African community partner states to invest on modern equipment, roll-off, roll-on technology and infrastructure in the marine industry, both in East Africa lakes and rivers, as well as in Indian Ocean, to minimize cost of loss, human capital, and method of cargo handling and handling transportation. Mr. Speaker, I vote to move.
Thank you, Honorable Nya. You have presented your motion. You can proceed now and substantiate it.
Mr. Speaker, I raise this motion because there have been, not only in Lake Victoria, but also in this long coastal area from Lamu to Mtwara, including the islands of Unguja, Zanzibar, and Pemba, there have been a lot of accidents. Some of them have been not reported. We have a lot of thousands and thousands of fishermen are dying, and in the lakes also, in Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika, and other lakes around the East Africa region. So it is vital since this Marine Transport Act, which was passed 11 years ago, so far it needs our Eastern countries to do something in order to save lives of many people who are really losing their lives. I just want to notify this here August Assembly, Mr. Speaker, sir, that in 1978 there was a project in Zanzibar of submarine cable. The company from United Kingdom called EPDC, they were doing the feasibility study. They found out that the depth between Zanzibar and Pemba was 850 meters deep. And the depth between Pemba and Tanga, it was about 600 meters deep. So, this area where there's called a Pemba Channel, formerly known as Nungu, is a place whereby a lot of accidents are happening. And therefore, the rescue equipment, the rescue plan, we should not only defend people from South Africa, we have to train our people here in the East Africa region. And the people from Tanga, from Pemba, from Unguja, from Dar es Salaam, from Mafia, they are the ones also in the lakes. And this equipment should be considered. And we therefore, I like your August House to support me, and the East African partner state should do as required. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. You know, Honorable Nya is from Zanzibar, so he's some form of, he's an authority somehow. Honorable members, the motion before the House is that this Assembly condoles with the government and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania on the tragic loss of lives as a result of a deadly ferry incident in Mwanza, Lake Victoria on Thursday, 20th September 2018. Debate is open. Honorable Simon Mbugua, Honorable Dr. Oburu, Honorable George Udongo, in that order, then I shall pick another speaking order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. First, I'd like to welcome Honorable Adam Mohammed, who is our Minister. Welcome to our Parliament, our regional Parliament. And I believe you bring your professionalism, your guruism in this Parliament. Secondly is to condole with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania for the loss of lives through the tragic accident in the Victoria. Mr. Speaker, mine is to remind this House that we had a similar incident in 29th of April 1994 in Kenya. There was a loss of lives as a result of a ferry by the name of Mtongwe Ferry. Indeed, it was a fatal tragedy, and this tragedy, or these tragedies, Mr. Speaker, they raise actually a lot of questions. Is the accident as a result of the human error? Is it as a result of lack of stringent safety measures? So, Mr. Speaker, I believe the people who lost their lives were ordinary people who are going with their daily activities. And somebody somewhere who is supposed to be responsible did not do his or her work. Because, Mr. Speaker, we are talking of lives of hundreds of people that were lost. In this day, in this era, Mr. Speaker,
we cannot allow the loss of lives as East Africans because of somebody somewhere who refused to look or to put measures, to put safety measures for the sake of people who, for the passengers. Mr. Speaker, it is painful, and today I feel very emotional as I'm debating because fathers were lost, mothers were lost, Mr. Speaker, children were lost, and these people, they didn't know that their day had come. And I believe it is because of recklessness and somebody somewhere failed to do their work. And it is not a problem for Tanzania, it is a problem for the East Africans because we share the lake, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are international safety regulations that have been put in place. For example, when you enter into a ferry, you must put on a life jacket. There must be tugboats. So I believe, in support of this motion, Mr. Speaker, measures should be put in place for introduction of, in all ferries in East Africa, for the safety jackets, for tugboats, for professional divers, for also ambulances, water ambulances, so that in the future, if such a disaster happens, then we can be able to rescue people as fast as possible and in the shortest time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so the question for me is the people who are responsible also for this, for the deaths, what should be done to these people? Sacking, I saw the President of the Republic of Tanzania sack to those people. But that is not a solution. These people, they should be put where they belong and they should be jailed.
Information.
Honorable Simon, are you taking the information?
Yes, I can take the information.
Honorable Maria.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I didn't want to stand while my good friend Honorable Mbogo is speaking, but I just want to give him information that at this time, at this juncture, it's not really a right time to point fingers because the government of Tanzania has already given a statement on this, that is working on it, and the investigation is still ongoing. And some of the measures, some of the quick measures have been taken, such as the board for transport has been annulled in that region. So as we join together as brothers and sisters for these condolences, we should really, I beg, refrain on pointing fingers at this juncture as the investigation has already ongoing. So I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Maria. For me, there is somebody who is responsible. And that person who is responsible for the loss of innocent life.
Honorable Simon, let me give you a general... Let me give you Honorable Minister, give me a moment. Honorable Simon, if you can resume your seat and switch off the microphone. Let me give a general information of the status quo. Then you proceed with the debate based on that information. There has been a commission of inquiry formed by the United Republic of Tanzania to investigate the circumstances of the accident and propose measures to be taken that would include if there has to be prosecution or and which measures can be put in place to prevent future accidents of a similar nature. Generally, I think that is the case. Maybe Honorable Minister can give us more information. So no one should feel constrained to speak their mind. But that is the information that you have. Only I do not see any incompatibility because we are not going to name any particular individual. We are just speaking what we think should be done or what ought to be done. Honorable Minister, you wanted to clarify something.
Honorable Speaker, really, thank you for giving me the time just to make a clarification before they go on with discussing this motion. I just have to add up on what you have said. The commission is already formed. A lot of measures have been taken, and the investigation is going on. But if they have listened to the statement which was given by the Prime Minister, he had said, whoever is responsible for this tragedy, from low level to high level, the measures will be taken by the government. I want to assure you and to assure this assembly.
Thank you.
Members are free to re-echo similar sentiments. There is no risk of any prejudice on the part of anyone because we are not mentioning anybody. And I don't even think we know them anyway. So, Honorable Samuel, you can proceed.
Thank you for your intervention, Mr. Speaker. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, my request, since we have one of the ministers here, is for these people to be adequately compensated, the people who lost lives. My appeal to the government of Tanzania, like the way we did in Kenya in 1994, we compensated those people. My appeal is for those people to be compensated. I beg to support Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Simon. Honorable Dr. Uburu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Adam for the appointment to the East African Community. And I must say that I know him to be a very, very experienced business executive, and I knew him when he was still at Barclays Bank, standing in for Africa. And we have also worked very closely with him when he was Minister of Trade and Industry, when I was also a member of the Kenyan Parliamentary Committee of Finance. We traveled with him to many countries, exploring opportunities for Kenya. We were in Turkey, we were in South Korea and India. And I must commend him for coming here, and I'm sure that experience which he has is going to bring to the community and it's going to add to the wealth of knowledge that is here. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to take this opportunity to condole with the people of Tanzania, the government and the people, and particularly the families of those who lost their lives in the Victoria. Mr. Speaker, sir, I personally come from Victoria. And this incident is one of the very many ones which happened there. And this particular one was very tragic because it killed a lot of people. 400 people, Mr. Speaker, is not a small number. And Mr. Speaker,
sorry for interruption. Let's see. Do we have any established figure so far? So that we don't place on the record the erroneous figures.
yeah,
Honorable
but close to that. Maybe
or maybe you can confine the statement and say,
Sorry, information. So far we have lost the life of 226 and rescued 41. Just information.
yes, so that is the official figure,
Okay.
and we should not deviate from
Yeah,
that.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would not like to go into details of figures, so I withdraw my figure of 400. But still, that number which has been mentioned by the minister is, by any standards, quite large. That is a very, very large number of people who have died, Mr. Speaker, and we cannot be happy. Mr. Speaker, this is something which is happening day in, day out. And I'm surprised that it took so long for the community to think of establishing a rescue and coordination center to deal with this menace. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is something which has been happening for years and years. Even if you look at the list which is presented to us here, there have been so many incidences, even on the Tanzanian side, which have been enumerated there. And then we have incidences in Kenya, and in our Lake Victoria, the small artisan fishermen die almost every other day because of lack of rescue facilities. Mr. Speaker, it is very pathetic that the poor artisanal fishermen go into the waters without any protective gears because they have no money to buy those life jackets. Mr. Speaker, as we talk of establishment of marine rescue and coordination centers, we should also be thinking of prevention. Mr. Speaker, sir, I know that prevention is better than cure. And instead of dealing with the rescue after people have been submerged in water, we should take precautionary measures to make sure that such incidences don't take place. First, Mr. Speaker, sir, most of the boats which go into the waters are not regularly inspected, and they are not given certificates of seaworthiness. And that is a requirement which should be actually observed before you allow boats to go into the waters. But on a daily basis, most of the boats which go into the waters are not. And most of the people who go into the waters either are overloaded or they don't go with any life jackets. Mr. Speaker, it is pathetic that a boat which should, or a ferry, which should carry only 100 people, carries more than 300 people. Mr. Speaker, there is something seriously wrong. It is not just that particular boat only. Most of the boats which sink in the lake sink because they are overloaded. And why are they overloaded? Mr. Speaker, they are overloaded because a need has been identified that people need to travel, and yet there are no boats. So when there is only one ferry or one boat going to an essential area where the population is big, our governments or the community must take action to make sure that there is sufficient transport provided for the people in those areas so that they can not go to crowd. When they crowd, it means there is a need. They crowd because they must. They must. People don't go into a crowded vote because they like they like it. They go there, Mr. Speaker, because there is need for it, for them to travel, and we should care that there is more, either bigger boats or bigger ferries, or more of them to take care in such areas. Mr. Speaker, we must also have some controls on the beaches so that our beach management units are trained on rescue measures. They are also trained to make sure that they can control the boats going into the waters in their areas of management, where they are managing the beaches. Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't want to continue making any further remarks on this one, but I must end up, Mr. Speaker, by again emphasizing that prevention is better than cure. We should take all precautionary measures to make sure that our people don't go into the waters, be it ocean or lake waters, without protection and protective gears. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg again to end with my condolences as I started to the Tanzanian people and the people and the government of Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obudu. The microphone is still on. Thank you. Honorable Judge.
Right, Honorable Speaker. First of all, I'd like to also congratulate the Honorable Adam and to welcome him to the family of the East African community. I had the opportunity to listen to the Honorable Adam recently when he was in Kampala with the Deputy President. And I was excited that he was soon going to be part of the East African community. Karibu sana. Honorable Speaker, I would like also to condole with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania for this disaster. And indeed, the people of East Africa are with you in prayers. The loss of any member of our community is our loss as a people. And therefore, we'd like to send our heartfelt condolences to the families, the bereaved families, of course, for those who lost their beloved ones. Mr. Speaker, that's so though. Allow me to speak to this motion. Mr. Speaker, I have said before that, we need to move away from this disaster-driven action. The knee-jerk responses that are always triggered whenever there is a disaster, and begin to have some power of imagination as a community. That this community must begin to think. This community must begin to have a very high sense of urgency and a high sense of imagination. And this particularly is directed at those who are in the cockpit of leading this community. What happened on the 20th of this month typifies what this community is, what we are. We are a disaster waiting to happen. Because Whereas MV Nyerere, according to the reports that I'm receiving, had the capacity to carry 101 passengers. It was loaded with over 250 East Africans. For me, this captures what exactly is happening within the East African community. That we have an ambition that is not matched by our capacity. That the East Africans who boarded typifies who we are. The 170 million East Africans who are struggling with a very small commitment of this community. We must go back to the drawing board and say, can we cut our suit to size and begin to do the things that we are able to do? I know for sure that the Lake Victoria Basin Commission is the only commission that is privileged, if I'm not mistaken, to have a whole sectoral council of ministers, a whole sectoral council dedicated to the Lake Victoria Basin Commission, whose mandate is to manage Lake Victoria. I have not heard a statement from the Lake Victoria Basin Commission specifically, but I would imagine that this commission should have long time ago given us a roadmap on how we would want this lake developed, and therefore putting in place regulatory measures that would have prevented the loss of 200 of our brothers and sisters. It would have been prevented. That 200 people board a ferry of 100 capacity speaks to something that is lacking. And this is a call for action for East African community. That we should not be woken up by disaster to start imagining what we should do. There is already a blueprint, and it is for us to see what is it that we are able to do. Mr. Speaker, there is an urgent call for introspection. There is an urgent call for soul searching, so that we begin to look at what are the priorities of this community, and indeed to put our investments where our priorities are. Should it require that we scale down on our ambition because our resources are limited, let's take the painful path. It's not enough to spread thin and therefore leave no mark. We are like a shadow that leaves no mark on its prey. My call is that there should be an exhaustive investigation. And I'm happy that the government of Tanzania has acted promptly to institute a commission to investigate. This commission report should inform action by the community. There has got to be a collective effort by all partner states to see that we have a sustainable mechanism that will protect the resources of the lake, that will protect those that are invested in that lake, that will come out with regulatory measures to prevent such disasters reoccurring, but also to make the shipping industry a viable industry in this region. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you, Honorable Judge. Honorable Susan, Honorable Adam, Honorable Gideon, Honorable Claude, Honorable Josephine.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister Speaker. Allow me also add my voice in appreciating Honorable Engineer Mia for having brought this motion. Right, Honorable Speaker, I also would like to condole with the families in the United Republic of Tanzania that lost their loved one. At the same time, also condole with the government of the United Republic of Tanzania. I want to thank Honorable Munya for one reason, that he has given us like full statistics when it comes to water accidents. Actually, when I look at the statistics he brought out, it even makes me more worried. Because when I look at the way these accidents have been recurring in this region, and to this date, we've not come up with tangible solutions, then it's a cause for me to get worried. Right, Honorable Speaker, with the data we have, it shows that the United Republic of Tanzania has suffered numerous nautical disasters. And when you read right from 1996, actually, we thought the incident that happened in 2011 had been named the disaster of the century. But then when I look at the one which happened in 2011, where more than 1,500 people died, then it makes me very, very worried. Now, this is just one partner state.
Any other Susan?
Mr. Speaker, the official records of the number of deaths as to the specific one, which is said to be 1,500, is not yet out. So we don't have the exact statistics because they're still a pending court. Thank you.
Honorable Susan?
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Makame. The fact that you didn't cause for a bigger worry. Because the incident happened in 2011, in September, and 7 years down the road, the government is not even aware of how many people perished. Information.
I think you should say Dr. Makame is not aware.
Information.
Maybe the government is. Honorable Dr. Corina?
I think there are confusion here. Honorable Susan McEntee, I think, is talking about the one of 2011, which the data is already given. And also, Honorable Dr. Saleh is talking about the one, Dr. Makame is talking about the one which just happened. So there are two issues here. I just want to make the clarification.
I think, Honorable Susan, you are reading from a certain document. Yes. Which specific incident are you referring to?
I'm referring to the one of 9th September 2011.
And it is in the document by the mover? So, Dr. Makame, which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one for 2011, because apparently there is a court case which has been appealed 3 times, and it hasn't been settled yet, and the government of the revolutionary government of Zanzibar has not given an exact statistic of the number of the people who perished, because it is still an issue which has been being contended in the court.
But even in the situation of contention, there must be a basis of contention.
Yeah.
So which figure is being disputed?
The figure of 1,500 is being disputed. The one the government gave is around 650.
No, Dr. Makame, you need to help us. So is there a figure that the government accepts?
Yes.
And which one is that?
I'm not sure exactly, but what I say is it's in the range of 650.
Okay. Honorable Susan is duly informed. Okay. We'll proceed.
Right, Honorable Speaker, allow me to say that right now I feel I'm being misinformed because I don't know who I'm to believe between the minister and the member. But I'll also talk as a land friend and use the information that I have on hand. Right, Honorable Speaker, the information I have here is that the death toll is 1,573. But when you total up the 4 incidents that have so far happened, the death toll is 2,691. Almost 3,000 East Africa. That's just only for the United Republic of Tanzania. We also have statistics for the Republic of Kenya, where the death toll is 270, and then the Republic of Uganda, where the death toll is 10. But I know this is not conclusive, because I know so many fishermen who perished in the lakes, whose statistics have not been compiled up to today. And this is a reason for us to be worried jointly as the members of the East African Legislative Assembly. Right, Honorable Speaker, this should not be an issue of defending who or who, but it should be an issue of all of us taking action. Honorable Speaker, I was listening to the news this weekend, and I got saddened when I heard a statement from the Tanzania Electromechanical and Services Agency, which is responsible for ferry services. It said they were also not aware of how many passengers were on this ferry. Of course, we've been getting a lot of information from the newspapers, the televisions, the radios, on the numbers, including those ones who say they are missing. Honorable Speaker, for me, if it's a water accident, you're either dead or you're alive. So there's nothing like you're missing. When you're missing, that means you're dead. And that's also enough to say that even the statistics that we have here, where we say 150 are missing, then you just total them up to the day. And you know already 300 people are gone. Honorable Speaker, I would like us, together with Council, to come up with very tangible solutions, because it's long overdue. You can't have incidents happening over and over and over again, and no action has been taken. Because right now, it has become survival for the fittest. If you're either locking yourself up in the engine room, then you survive, or you'll be holding on to a tire or a mattress, or you're just a good swimmer. And unfortunately, in the region, our people are not very good swimmers. Honorable Speaker, I'm talking about this as a concerned East African. In fact, I would like to call upon the Assembly also, as we do our interparliamentary games, maybe we could add on swimming. Because I understand most of the people who survive, they manage to swim out of the water and maybe hold on to something, or since they were less than a kilometer to the shore, they were able to swim to the shore. But many of our people are non-swimmers, so in case of such incidents, they are not able to survive because of lack of that skill. And in fact, Right Honorable Speaker, a lot of our East African girls have also been killed in that way. They're drowned into swimming pools, using the excuse that Africans don't know how to swim. So it's my plea that we encourage our people to learn this very good skill, which is even healthy, certainly the members of parliament themselves. Maybe if you go next time and compete, I can show off that special skill, which can save a life, or even the life of others. Because I've already read that there are some people who even called family members when things are going bad. They called colleagues who are fishermen to come and rescue them, but they had no way of rescuing them because they didn't know how to do it. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I'm requesting that we come up with tangible solutions. Inland water transport is supposed to be the safest compared to sea. But now, if Lake Victoria is consuming our people to this level, then we have a reason to get worried. The other issue, Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to talk about is the protective gear. Because before people go onto the ferry is supposed to have at least life jacket. So the location where they were, where the accident took place, if these people had life jackets, a lot of them would have survived, more than the 41. But then it appears people never had life jackets for them to be able to survive. People survived even air accidents just with the life jacket. The plane crash lands into the water source, and people survive when they have these life jackets. But now on the ferry, wouldn't we have saved so many lives if we only had these life jackets? It would have happened. And as Honorable Odinga said, even distress battery the ferries don't have. So when an emergency occurs, all you can do is maybe pray and look at each other. If the ferries we put on our waters had distress buttons whereby when things go wrong, you can at least press that button and you get quick rescue. That way we are able to save so many lives. Otherwise, at this point, human beings are becoming food for our fish in the lakes. And we need to take an urgent solution. We provide a response to the people of East Africa. Right, Honorable Speaker, I would like to push this also to the partner states. Lake Victoria Basin Commission, which has slightly disappointed me right now, because up to this level, as one of the big states have not made a statement in this regard. Their budget is like 90% donor funded. That means as partner states, we do not see any niche with this particular sector, which is supposed to provide the safety of the East Africans who use, especially the Lake Victoria water basin. So I'd like to call upon our partner states to make sure that the region has safe and reliable water transport. Not just safe, but also reliable. Because by the time you find 260 people on one ferry that is supposed to accommodate 100 people, then there is urgent need. People are going to the market. They all have their merchandise they want to take to the market. So what do? If there is only one ferry, which probably operates maybe once every 2 hours, then they have no option, they'll just get on. Or they will miss out on their survival. And many people rely on the lake for survival. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I hope Council is taking note and they will take an urgent action. And finally, just to re-emphasize what Honorable Simon Bugua said, the issue of compensation. It's not just enough for government to come out and say sorry. Information. We are going to take information. Let me finish my issue. You can always inform me later because now I'm tired of misinformation. It's not just enough to say we are going to put people in jail. The people who lost their lives in this previous accident are breadwinners for their families. There are so many children now who turned out to be parentless because their parents are personally like this incident. We should devise a compensation mechanism where families are compensated for this loss of lives. Where maybe government had no insurance even to the parents, government should dig deep into their pockets and compensate families so that they can handle this emergency situation. I beg to support.
Thank you. Honorable Aden.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. And let me, on the onset, join my colleagues in sending my condolences to the families of the victims of the ferry disaster and by the life they extend to the people of Tanzania during this difficult period of time. I also wish to thank Honorable Engineer Nya for this very important resolution that he has brought before the House. Indeed, it is a sad moment for the people of East Africa. And I want to say on the onset that the issue of MV Nyerere, whether it was overloaded or not, or whether it is Tanzania or Kenya or where many people have died, is not the real issue. I recently boarded the ferry in Tongwe, in Likoni ferry recently myself in Mombasa. And I can confirm that indeed I did not see any official of the government.
What is that, son? Is it a phone? Does any member have his or her phone on? If that is the case, it is against the rules. Please switch them off or put them in silent mode.
Honorable Speaker, the point I was making is that I think overloading is a rampant problem across our region, across all our crossing channels. And it is sad that where these people are boarding this particular vessel, like this one of Ukerewe to Ukara Island, MV Nyerere, it's not that there were no officials to control this place. Sometimes overloading is done running for revenue, money. And especially the privately owned ones, and even some government-owned ones, where levies are charged, people want to load as much as possible so that they can be able to get as much revenue as possible. What this resolution is asking for is, among other things, the implementation of the Safety Regulations 2010, which I believe will give us an opportunity to set certain guidelines as to when people are boarding the vessels that they want to use to cross the channels in our seas and lakes. Honorable Speaker, during this sad time, I think we should also call on other member states of the East African community, first of all, to stand with our colleagues in Tanzania in this difficult time and offer them any support that might be needed from them as brothers, and also to call on our governments to put investigations into all the areas of our crossing channels, because they have now become disaster in waiting. One happens after the other. It's just this year, that year. And I agree with Honorable Susan. It's just that when the number is large is when it is reported. I remember reading in the news in Kenya just last month, several fishermen who drowned in Lake Victoria. I don't think they came to the attention of any other, anywhere else. Just last month. This tells us that indeed, Honorable Speaker, there is urgent measure to institute the issues that have been proposed here, the firefighting equipment on board, and modern technology as well. Modern technology can help us a lot. It can even help us take a head count of the people who are boarding that particular vessel without you having to stop anybody. It is used in many places. So some of these things will go a long way in ensuring that the vessels are not loaded beyond their capacity. The other issue is, which I wanted to say, is that as the EAC, I think it is time also that we take up this issue based on the recommendations that Honorable Munya has proposed us here, to stand firm and ensure that these policies and regulations are put in place for the safety of our own people. I agree with the colleagues who spoke before me that it is so sad that families, many of whom are poor breadwinners for their own family, end up to be the victims of this particular tragedy. And it affects all of us. The ferry disaster in the one that in 211 that we are referring to, that particular one, I know, according to news, it was not only Tanzanians, people from the United Republic of Tanzania, many other nationalities, including my own, Kenya, was involved. And for that reason, these are tragedies that happen to us. It is on all of us. So I don't want to say much more, Honorable Speaker, other than to say that these are very important recommendations that have been put forward, and I stand to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Gideon.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to support the motion being brought forward by Honorable Engineer Mohamed Abid Nya. As I condole with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania and also stand in solidarity with the East Africans due to this tragic accident, I would like to highlight a few issues that make me disturbed. I feel really disturbed over this accident because the East Africans are good in making laws, but are not good in implementing them. We have very, very, very smartly written laws, well articulated, but we don't implement them. For me, I think this is a real negligence about how we take care of ourselves when it comes to transport. Generally, the transport in East Africa region is a problem. be it by river or by air or by road. We still have to do a lot. Because in the second week of this month, I was in Cuba and I also witnessed that a tragic accident for the plane that crashed in the next region and killed many people. So we really have a challenge in how to implement our laws so that we enforce the safety of the safety mechanism or safety regulations. This has just reminded us that we always become concerned when something is happening. And when it ended, will become normal. Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge this assembly that for us, we are representatives of the people of East African region. For this case, we should really become not normal anymore until things are normal. We have to chase our governments in the East African community that these laws are enforced fully. And failure, someone has to face the consequences as required by the law or as provided by the law. Things should not be normal anymore. The people who lost their loved ones are in total state of despair, and the precious lives that were lost will never come back. And this is because of the true negligence of enforcing the laws. Those lives that we lost, they are mostly for the people who come from the rural setting, our innocent civilians. So when they come, they don't have much money to spend, so they seek for the most cheapest means of transport. And if you see, if we fail as government to deliver the basic message of safety, then it is a big question to us. Because we expect somebody who is using means of river transport to have at least life jacket for safety. Though this is not 100% because it depends on how this accident happened. But we would have saved many lives more than we have done now. So I was wondering when Honorable Munya recommended the resolve that the Assembly to hike the Council of Ministers of EAC to enforce the Lake Victoria Transport Act 2007 and its regulations. If that act has already been there and it has regulations, why is it difficult to domesticate it across the region? Why is it not being enforced? Why should we wait for a tragedy like this so that we can enforce it? So I really recommend that we resolve as he proposed. And also, I note one thing that Honorable Susan was mentioning about the swimming. For my case, it's not for MPs. But we know across our East African region there are some classes in primary schools and in high school for swimming. I think we just need to go more broader in trying to encourage swimming, because even for those precious lives we lost, some of them may have access to swimming, and then they will be able to survive. So that's one thing we need to encourage in the region. And life jackets are expensive. I don't know what can we do to make sure that the life jackets are secured for everybody who is using river needs. I like, or the lakes. As I come towards the conclusion of my deliberation or my argument or my debate, when I read the Twitter from Right Honorable Speaker for his condolences to the people of the East African region and particularly United Republic of Tanzania. That was really good. It really reminded me that we have a leadership that is really following up on issues which are of concern to the region. I just want to say that was good, and we stand in solidarity with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania. I support this motion to resolve the following resolution mentioned by Honorable Engineer, and I stand still condoled with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Gideon. Can we have your microphone off? What's happening?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My concern is about two things. I first want to talk about what to comment on this Lake Victoria Transport Act, and also say something about the commission that was established by the United Republic of Tanzania to investigate on this tragic event happened. Starting on the first point, here the recommendation of the proposed resolution, second proposed resolution of this motion to be passed by the Assembly is that we urge the Council of Ministers to enforce the Lake Victoria Transport Act of 2007. Enforcing is like implementing this act, but I was also wondering whether it has provisions that there must be standby rescue units at the border post of partner states bordering the Lake Victoria. I was wondering whether it has those provisions and they are not implemented, or it does not have them, so that we can amend the act. Because if they are well, that standby rescue units at the border post of Lake Victoria, I think they will have saved many lives of people, East Africans. Secondly, and I want also, as I said earlier, I want to talk something about the established commission to investigate this matter. I think this matter, this tragic event happened, is a shared matter by all East African partner states, especially the three countries bordering Lake Victoria. So my suggestion is that maybe if this assembly finds it reasonable, or other two partner states, I mean Kenya and Uganda, have to step in, because the measures that will be taken will be, it is better if they are implemented by all those three countries bordering Lake Victoria. So I suggest that maybe we amend or we add another recommendation that this commission.
Let me guide on that, Honorable Claude. The context in which this commission has been formed is a sovereign authority of a particular partner state, but that may not be in conflict with any other regional initiative that can be taken. But we cannot infringe on the authority of the United Republic of Tanzania to investigate an incident that happened within their territory. If we think of our own regional initiatives, we can still go ahead and do it. You can proceed now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for guidance. I was also suggesting that maybe, as we have the Lake Victoria Basin Commission, can also do an investigation or take measures about the incident will never happen again. And I was also thinking sometimes referring to also what Honorable Susan was saying, that this commission, Lake Victoria Basin Commission, almost 19%, 99% of its funds are donor funded. But I remember it was in the last 2015, 2016 Audit Commission report. There was a matter or an issue of high-sim harvest machines, which are redundant, and they were bought by the commission, the Lake Victoria Basin Commission. I was thinking if that money were used by this commission to buy or to establish those standby rescue units, it would also have helped something on this regard. Concluding, Honorable Speaker, I want to express also my condolences, heartfelt condolences to the families, and want to say that we stand with them, and maybe if possible, the compensations as proposed by other honorable members, if they are given, to also help the families. I'll take the conclusion. I'm concluding. I'm concluding. I'll take the information after. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable President, and Right Honorable Speaker, to that matter. So I'm concluding saying, and again, I express my heartfelt condolences to the Griffey family who lost their members of the families in this tragic event. Thank you very much.
General information.
I support the motion.
Honorable Francis, you cannot give information to a member who is not substantively on the floor. But you are informed that after you can arrange. Honorable Josephine, now let us try and be brief. You know we have many other pending matters.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Josephine, let's try and be brief now. Then Honorable Kimuda, Honorable Dr. Woda, Jeremiah, Honorable Dr. Makame.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Indeed, I'm going to be brief. Let me start by thanking very much all those who shared their sympathy and condole with the people of Tanzania and East Africa in general, because this tragedy is not the tragedy of Tanzania, it is an East African tragedy. I happened to work around Lake Victoria for a number of years. And if you look at the terrain of Lake Victoria, characteristic of Lake Victoria, you'll find out that nearly, and I say this for fact, nearly all partner states, in one way or another, have their citizens operating on the lake. It is sad, Honorable Speaker, because in Kiswahili we have a saying that where you have trees, you don't have buildings. Penye miti hakuna wajenzi. This treaty of ours, which was signed for the first time on 30 December 1999, speaks in a number of articles on Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is being referred to in quite extensively in a number of articles. Thereafter, we made a protocol for sustainable development of Lake Victoria Basin, which was signed on 20th November 2003. And one of the areas where it is emphasized, both in the protocol and in a number of regulatory frameworks that we have, is the issue of safety. Lake Victoria, size-wise, is almost 69 square kilometers. The basin itself covers almost 200,000 square kilometers. In one way or another, Lake Victoria stretches from Burundi, Rwanda, the basin, all the way through the Nile to South Sudan. So all partner states, in one way or another, are touched by Lake Victoria. I have been reading about a number of initiatives through Lake Victoria Basin regarding the safety measures for people who are transacting business on day-to-day basis within the lake. One of them is actually on the website of African Development Bank, whereby a project on safety measures, one component is safety measures, has been referred to. I was wondering why, with all the frameworks that we have, with all the rules that we have made, we are not actually protecting the lives of our people. So I say, to be brief, Honorable Speaker, sir, that let's start asking difficult questions to ourselves within this parliament, as well as we carry our oversight assignments, specifically looking and taking stock of all the maritime laws in order to address the shortfalls in the implementation of these laws, and to address issues pertaining to safety and maritime accidents that are happening not only in Lake Victoria, but on the water bodies that are within our partner states. Last but not least, I support the motion, and I would like to propose, in addition, that probably in our next oversight assignment, we take up the issue of maritime accidents, specifically starting with Lake Victoria, through Lake Victoria Basin Commission, and spread otherwise to other water bodies within East Africa. Thank you, sir, and thank you, members.
Thank you. So that is an amendment you have proposed. I hope Honorable Engineer Munya is taking note of that. Honorable Kim, the head person will be brief.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me join my colleague to condole with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania. And let me thank also Honorable Adam Muhammad.
Honorable Joseph, you will rewrite your amendment.
So, Honorable Speaker, let me talk about this disaster happened to 146 people. And also, thank God that 41 people who have survived in this accident. Why this incident, why this one repeat himself, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members? Let me point out. In Africa, you do not know the main resource until the other comes and collected our resource outside, and then later on we will know what is the very important resource in Africa. These are problems. And let me point you out now. Why now the Lake Victoria are losing money, people? Because we are not, first we invest in our water, sustainable economy using our water. And actually the world has said the next third world war is water. Now you are seeing one of the speakers, about the members. The Ethiopian dams, which is the big dams in Africa, including Ethiopian lakes. They built the big dams, which will supply Kenya. Now even the Kenyan people they are prepared to borrow the electricity to Kenya. And let's all together in Sudan and look at all those countries that use it. But there are big fighting between Egypt and Ethiopia. And I remember the agreement of 1929 and 1929 of the Nile Basin in Khartoum, which the Kenya boycotted and Ethiopia have boycotted. No, I mean Uganda boycotted. And also in 2010, which Sudan and Egypt they boycott the NTB Declaration 2010. Why I'm quoting that? I'm quoting that if we know the value of the Lake Kivu, Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika is the main resource, 90% for our resource. I think today no one person can die in the Lake Victoria. Because now, today we are coming here, no research.
Yet we go to Egypt. They have more than 1 million PhD water researcher in the water that control the IMF internationally. They control even us. We are in South Sudan. We have the Long Nile in Africa. They will not allow us where they are using Victoria water to build any dam for sustainable economy in South Sudan. Because what? Because those people here, those people from Sudan, they are here, they don't know if they build a dam, it can fall, if it falls, it will cost many things. Do that. And now we are talking now, both self. Because if I can, let me put out there, and the only reason that Canada is here, and from Kenya is here, from Uganda is here, they are looking for revenue only. They are looking for revenue only to collect the money from the fishers and from the people who are driving the people in the lake. But if they are looking back, those 500 million, like one of the said, the Lake Victoria produced $500 million annually. Why do we need it to come with 200 billion annually? Yeah, I will let me point out the figure. I talk about because when we talk about that, people are dead already, but we don't have any policy, we don't have any framework. Our people they will continue to die for nothing. And why we just come here, condemn them, and we don't have any policy. Our water is go to Sudan, go to Middle East. We are not doing a sustainable economy for our resource, which is very resource. I had counsel to make a very good resolution to use our sustainable economy, to use our water for agriculture, I want it for fish, for anything to use it as the way the modern world, we can use our economy and our water and the main resource for us. Not just Dar es Salaam Port or Mombasa, but the Lake Victoria, Lake Ifo, and Lake Tanganyika. We use sustainable economy and our resource and main resource reality is the water. And like my brother, like somebody said, food security. So food security, talk about Lake Victoria. I support the...
Thank you, Honorable Kim. The Honorable Dr. Wada.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. First of all, I would like to add my voice and pay my condolences to the people of United Republic of Tanzania and the people of East Africa at large, because that's a tragedy which has missed us all. Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like also to congratulate the newly appointed Minister, Aden Mohammed. You're welcome. Right Honorable Speaker, it's such a tragedy. When I heard about the news, first put in our WhatsApp group, and I was very concerned. As a person whose rivers divide my country, I know that these ferries and boats incidents, they take a lot of lives. And I remember Honorable Josephine was the first one to respond, and she said they're still not certain about the figures. And I'll be very short because my colleagues have spoken. I know that the main reason for these tragedies which consume our people and lead to the death of many members of our people is the irregular inspection which is not done for our ferries and boats. If they're regularly inspected, I think we will not lose our people. The second one is that we don't follow the given boating and navigation rules. And I happened to come here to Arusha this early morning, and I was praying throughout the throughout the trip, because this doesn't happen only for the marine transport. It happens also to our aircraft and our aviation transport. And I remember that a couple of months ago in South Sudan, there was a very tragic incident of a plane crash in Yorol, which happened to take 19 of our people's lives, and the Bishop of Yorol was one of them. And also before 1 month, there was another airplane crash, but luckily enough, no one died. So I want to propose, if it's in order, that we include our air aviation also, because it's one of the means which we lose life of East Africa. And it happened that when you go abroad, you can sleep throughout the entire flight, but when you are just moving inside the region, you have to pray, as Honorable Susan said, the whole flight you have really to pray for your life. So, Honorable Munya, I really thank you for this important motion, and I raise to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And you draft your proposed amendment,
Yes.
passing to the mover. Dr. Makame?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this important motion which is before this August House. Mr. Speaker, I'd first of all start by congratulating the Honorable Aden Mohamed, who is the youngest member of the House. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa Aden Mohamed. And also, you know, with this tragedy that has happened in Lake Victoria, it reminds me of the slogan we are having in the East African community. It says, one people, one destiny. We are one people in East Africa, and the people who have perished, have lost their lives in the lake, are fellow East Africans. We've been receiving in East Africa condolences actually from the heads, from the members of the summit, the Right Honorable Speaker yourself, the Secretary General, members of the Council, and also received condolences from within and outside the region. They all know the sorrow that has befallen in our region. We appreciate for that. And the marine vessel, MV Nyerere, goes with it to carry the name of the founding father of the nation, of Tanzania, who is also a person who sowed the seeds of the East African community and Pan-African. It is a very significant loss to the past. Mr. Speaker, before I proceed with my contribution to the motion, and because we are all touched, I saw from all the members who have contributed here, starting from the Honorable Mbugua to the end here, Honorable Dr. Wada, and the ones who spoke in between. There is a need, Mr. Speaker, for us as an assembly to express solidarity with the people who have lost members of their loved ones, their families, their beloved members of the family. Because in Tanzania, what is happening right now, people, despite we are having the Prime Minister, we have a disaster fund with the Prime Minister, which is addressing that matter. But as Africa, we have been contributing. So we are having the Rwanda people contributing, other groups are contributing to assist the people who have the families, the survivors, and the families who have lost their loved ones. So we can also make some contributions, a token contribution as a gesture that we are in solidarity with the people who have lost their loved ones. Mr. Speaker, I think these applauses mean that that one has been
Thank you, Dr. Makame. The proposal, if you switch on the microphone, switch off. So the proposal you are making is very important. And actually, sometime in the morning, the Secretary General reminded me of the need for the Assembly to extend the hand of support. So can I suggest that this doesn't become part of the resolution, but we go the better way, the usual way you do? Can it work? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Now to go to the substantive motion in front of us. First of all, Mr. Speaker, as echoed by Mr. Odongo, Honorable Odongo, that the LBC is the only
institution that has been privileged to have a sector council. And the mover of the motion pointed out that there is this Lake Victoria Transport Act, which was enacted in 2007 and entered into legal force in 2008. And along with it, the regulations. And in 2009, the Council of Ministers made a decision to establish the MRCC, the Marine Rescue Coordination Center, in Mwanza with substations in Entebbe and Kisumu. And in his submission, Honorable Nya informed us that the permanent secretary convened in Kisumu on 6th of September 2018 to actually see how they can operationalize the MRCC, which was decided on by the ministers in 2009. And they ended by appointing a team of experts and issuing a BOQ. So, Mr. Speaker, this makes us wonder, when the ministers decide and when ministers direct, it takes 10 years for permanent secretaries to convene and actually not implement the decision of the ministers, but now try to articulate how that one is going to be implemented by forming a team of experts. Now that one needs to be taken very seriously, because we believe our ministers mean business, and East African community means business and is not talk shopping. Mr. Speaker, the other thing I'd like also to point out is the issue of, there is a study of Oslo University, which was done in 2011. It was pointing out that almost 5,000 people perish every year in the area of Lake Victoria and its estuaries. 5,000 people is not a small number, Mr. Speaker, because most of the accidents which happen are not recorded, like those ones of fishermen, a canoe capsizing and other things. So we really need to have an action that would operationalize the Marine Rescue Coordination Center and the substation. Mr. Speaker, with that, and because you had advised that we be very brief, I'd like to come in with Rule 27 of this House, the amendments of the motion, and I have two amendments which I'm proposing. One, this motion is looking at the Lake Victoria. Honorable Warder here spoke about the aviation accidents, but we also spoke here about marine accidents outside Lake Victoria, and namely in the Indian Ocean. And in the Indian Ocean, we are aware that the summit approved what we have, the ESC Infrastructure Master Plan, and in the Infrastructure Master Plan, they approved a roll-on, roll-off project that would make it easy for people to move around with the people and cargo in the East African, in the Indian Ocean. So with that, I have two amendments. One is to have a roll-off facility with clear rescue framework as decided by the Council of Ministers and approved by the summit. And also, the Council should actually expeditiously implement the Marine Rescue Coordination Center as it had decided in 2009. Mr. Speaker, I'm in full support of the motion, and I
Thank you, Dr. Makame. You will write down your proposed amendments and forward them to the mover. I am not sure we shall have everyone speak because time is not in our favor. So I'll go for those who have not spoken at all. Honorable Muhia, Honorable Dr. Alak, the Honorable Alak, then I will take another. Try and be brief.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll be very brief. First, I wish to congratulate our new member, ex-official member of this regional parliament, Honorable Aden, my CS from Kenya. Secondly, I want to condone or give my deepest condolences to the Republic of Tanzania and the families who lost their loved ones. Honorable Speaker, I wish to support this motion by way of questions, hoping Honorable Munya will take the questions positive. First, I'm a bit hesitant and I am thinking, and I have this idea, why are we having a motion to instruct institution to follow the law? Is it really in order? The law is there. Why is it not enforced? If we have laws for all institutions, then a disaster happens. Then the legislators bring a motion or a bill to urge the institution to follow the law. I am not sure if we are headed the right direction. By and large, I believe there is disaster management policy because no institution of this type can operate it. I believe the accidents that have happened before, like the ones that he has pointed, the one in Mombasa in Likoni, and the ones in the Lake Basin before, there must have been accident investigations reports before. My question is, do these reports inform future? Possibly no. The compliance, there is no such kind of an institution which can operate without compliance manual. There must be life jackets, there must be operators who are qualified, there must be enough personnel who can be like savers. By and large, again, this is a question. Honorable Speaker, when we watch investigative movies, particularly the aircraft, we find very good research trying to get the errors and even informing future. Was it a pilot error? Was it management error? Was it a natural disaster? In this case, in our region, these disasters have happened time and again. Many people have lost their lives, which is not a good thing. So I call upon the community, and I may particularly point out, because we are a regional parliament, we may not be able to direct the Republic of Tanzania. But we have our own institution, the Inter-University Council for East Africa. I am sure they have young people who can do good research, and I'm sure I can recommend that the Inter-University Council of East Africa can try to bring a very fine, combined instruction which should thoroughly be followed by such institutions such that the lives of our dear ones can be saved. Honorable Speaker, I think it's time the community have to be proactive, creative, and do not shy to spend. Because these spending, like the ones I can point in my country in Kony, sometimes you find the number of people in the ferry, honestly, no life jackets can be supplied. But if we could be organized and mind of the lives and livelihood of our people, the management is key here. I think it's more or less about the management. And if the management is well stipulated and followed, I'm sure the lives will be saved. Otherwise, I support, and I am very sorry to the Republic of Tanzania.
Thank you very much, Honorable Munya. Honorable Alak, briefly, then I will invite Honorable Adam to make his maiden speech, although Council will respond formally.
Thanks, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the motion raised by Honorable Mohammed Habib Munya. But before I get into the motion, let me also welcome Honorable Aden Mohammed for having been appointed to this Honorable Assembly, and also congratulate also the President of the Republic of Kenya for appointing me. As to the motion raised by colleague Munya, I stand to support it. And I stand here to condole with the people of Tanzania for this great loss. But when we come to discuss this issue, honorable members, all this points to poverty. In fact, in our part of the world, which is East Africa, we are very lucky because there are very few natural disasters. Most of our disasters are man-made. And to be gender sensitive are human-made. Now, what we are dealing with is poverty. You have seen Africans are drowning in the Mediterranean. What is it? It's poverty. Are we really addressing poverty? I see people running to China to get money. But in those regions where there are many seas and oceans, you find that they try to take care of accidents. But there are disasters in those areas. Do we go really to get the technology to deal with these disasters? Or do we just go and get money and come and put it on different things? So in this situation, I'm seeing that it is poverty that is making our people scramble to jam small ferries, to jam small boats across the Mediterranean. So let us address poverty in the right way. And I have heard of cases of small fishermen dying on Lake Victoria because they are using very small boats. What is it that is used in those advanced technologies to save people? We should really introduce things like cooperatives, whereby you don't allow only one individual to go with a small boat to the Lake Victoria to go and fish, but cooperative society. Also, investment in purchasing some of the ferries. We've got to modernize them. After all, when you use these ferries, are they really insured? Because people have been talking here of compensating people who die on the ferry. But are they not insured? This also we have to find out. Because if you really put these conditions that the ferries must be insured, then they will have to invest. Because they will fear later on to overload the ferry, because if something happens, then they will pay a lot of compensation. So I think, honorable members, let us think critically that we are dealing with poverty. And we really got to get to the drawing board on how we deal with poverty. Our people are not scrambling for just because they want to trouble, they want to make a living. So let us really address ourselves in the state of crossing all the oceans, going to look for money, just to do very, very big projects, which are not benefiting our people. Because most of our people, they need really to be supported at a small business. And this is where the survival is. So, Honorable Speaker, let me come back to support the motion raised by Honorable Nya, that I stand with the people of Tanzania in this difficult movement. And it is not the people of Tanzania, it is happening all over the region. As a colleague has said before, that there was an accident on the 9th of this month where the plane crashed, and it was overloaded. The plane was supposed to take 19, and it took 23. So there is also overloading of the plane. Yeah. So we stand together with the people of Tanzania. We believe with them, and we hope the investigation that has been launched by the government comes out with recommendations that we can use for a better, service to our people. So I stand here to support the motion, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion.
Thank you very much, Honorable Alak. Now, Honorable Adam, can you please take the floor? Then I will come back to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and fellow members. First of all, I would like to start by thanking you, Honorable Speaker, for the very warm welcome that I have received from you personally this morning before we start any business here. But also would like to thank the members for the kind words that they have said about me. By the way, all of those are true. So, and really just feeling very much at home through some of the really how you feel welcomed, and you can tell the difference from day one, how you feel. I also would like to join all the members who have spoken to condole with our brothers and sisters in the United Republic of Tanzania on the issue that has just been discussed. It is something that today is happening on this side of the lake, tomorrow is on the other side. And if we don't have a united front and effort in dealing with addressing some of these shortcomings, then we will be the ones to blame. Unfortunately, or fortunately, crises such as this help us to plan much better for the future and put in place things that we have failed to do for a very long time. Honorable Speaker, also I would like to thank you for the 2 books that you have given me, which would form some very good basis for my reading. One is on the rules of procedure for this assembly. It is my first time to be standing on this side. Normally I'm on the other side addressing, answering questions. But I now have the privilege of asking questions at some stage to people. And also the second book on the treaty for the establishment of the EAC community. Those 2 books undoubtedly will form a very good basis for me to be joining this family in driving the agenda for integration jointly with all of you as we go forward. Honorable Speaker, the Secretariat arm of the EAC is the one that I've been very familiar with and been working with in the last 5 years in my role as a former Trade and Industry Minister. And now I'm joining the other arm, if you like, of the legislative arm. And my just initial observation is, I think this is as good as it gets. Most of our other meetings in the other arm of the Secretariat is one where we all drive in or fly in, meet here for a few hours, and we all go back to where we come from. But I see a community that is together, that have the opportunity in the evenings to resolve some of the issues. And so I really am proud to be part of this team. I hope my other day's job doesn't take me away from here. I have no doubt I now have an excuse to stay in Arusha or any other place where the functions are happening. Honorable Speaker, I also would like to say that as we drive our integration agenda, one of the key things we need to ask ourselves is, what is it that defines our success as a region? And I think a key part of it is, first of all, observing the rule of law, making sure that we have the right laws to drive our agenda going forward. We also need to make sure that our economies within this region are growing and improving every year. That would help uplift the lives of our people. I think the last speaker, the Honorable Member from Sudan, who spoke,
talked about poverty being a very, very critical part of a lot of our misfortunes that happen today. And so the desire to get people out of poverty is an integral part of, I think, our being together as opposed to wanting to drive our own independent individual agendas as member states. And a lot is being done, a lot is going on in making those successful dreams come out. So, for example, in infrastructure, a lot of things are happening. I was with my counterparts in Uganda on the Malaba-Busia border for the second half, the last half of last week. And you can see the difference and how people living across borders are feeling like one. A lot of support and encouragement being given to support people movements around the region. And of course, the customs union that has been one of the key successes for this region. But as we try and build these successes and catch up with the rest of the world who have been, using a rule book that have been written by themselves, unfortunately, the rule books now are beginning to get changed. What I mean by that is the world order, which has been predominantly a global community, which is being run by global rules, and it's nice to be part of that global community, is now beginning to see the world order turn on its head, where people are shifting from being much more global to much more inward looking. And that is why we're seeing today a number of trade wars that are happening in different parts of the world that undoubtedly will have an effect on us at some stage. And so how we reflect on that is very important. As different parts of the world are coming together, there are others that are also breaking apart. And this is also having its own impact of confusion in the citizens of those regions. And that is why, as we find our own destiny, we need to find what works best for us. I am confident and a true believer that being in the Union as EAC member states and growing this region is one of the key successful advantages that we should build on going forward. The third point that I just want to highlight, which is a challenge, but also a very big opportunity, is the role technology is playing, especially the social media, in shaping the world. Whether we are talking here in our region or other parts of the world, it's not only changing the way things are done, but it's also affecting our lives significantly in a way that I think we haven't even started seeing any of it. But coming closer to home and highlighting some specific observations that I've had in the last few years being a key part of this community, there are, I would say, 4 key points that I just want to highlight that I see as challenges that we need to reflect on as we move forward as EAC. And I think some of it also comes out of this house in how things are being done. Number 1 is a lot of good laws driven and produced out of this chamber, but when it leaves here and goes into different countries, how quickly and how easily they get domesticated, or indeed how easy some of those positions are implemented, is a totally different story. And I know that is not necessarily the role of the members of this house, and it is putting a lot more burden on those of us who are the Council of Ministers, who now have to basically push the implementation agenda of what comes out of this house in making sure that we reconcile the laws that we have in our specific countries and what comes out of EAC. Secondly, is really the issue of harmonizing our taxes across the region. That is a major issue that is affecting our development of our economies, and your support is also as much required as it is for those of finance ministers to make sure that if we want to have a customs union, we need to have a very strong harmonized tax base. Number 3, I think a key part of also the challenge that we have experienced is the role our private sector is playing in driving the economic agenda of this region. I always say to the private sector in Kenya and to the East African Business Council that the biggest problem that we have is actually not about governments not putting the right policies in place, but it's about what the private sector actually does. Private sector, when they're in a meeting together, they all say the right things, but when the meeting breaks out, everybody goes to their respective ministers and say, you know, those taxes that we say should be waived, I think we should not waive it. Now, you know, we need to make sure that this country or that country is going to beat us and so on and so forth. So we say to our private sectors, please have our agendas open so that we can drive our agenda collectively as we go forward. And the fourth and the final point that I would say is, I think just like people look at whether a glass is half full or half empty, EAC has done a lot of positive stuff. We are today the most integrated regional economic community on the continent of Africa. And yet, we also don't stop complaining about how much more we need to do. And so I would urge all of us as we continue to rectify the few challenges that we need to deal with, that a lot has been achieved and a lot has been done to actually help us grow going forward. And finally, Mr. Honorable Speaker, I just want to basically say that, you know, when a newcomer comes in, there are a few things that they need to learn over time. And I understand this is a house of rules. So if in the first few contributions I make, I don't address you properly or someone else, then I need to be forgiven. Number two, I've also been made to understand that today is the only day I get an escort into this house, and I'll now be coming by myself in the future. And looking at the, you know, some of the houses, the chambers of some of our member states, including my own country, with a lot of dramas that has been happening, I have asked some members to see which is the most strategic place to sit in this house, just in case something like that happens. But I've been assured that this has never happened in the future, so I should be safe. With those very remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to say thank you very much for the warm welcome, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Adam. So you run no risk of whatever you think can happen to you. This is a very safe place. So thank you very much. I think, honorable members, this is a very inspiring maiden speech from the Honorable Cabinet Secretary. So I still have a few minutes I have set for myself to conclude with this matter. So for the remaining few members, please be brief. Honorable Pamela, very brief.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, I would like to deeply appreciate the condolence greetings which was being given by the fellow colleagues. I thank you so much. Just to go into this motion which was presented by our colleague, Honorable Engineer Mian, I support the motion because, first of all, as a representatives or an oversight organ of this community, we have a responsibility to make sure that the lives of people from this community are saved. Why am I saying so? It's because I don't think if anyone will ever or will never allow even one accident to happen. We are discussing the number of people who died, but in a safety point of view, you will never accept even one person to die. Why are we discussing the numbers? We're discussing the numbers because we are lacking policies in place. We are missing the awareness. We are missing the safety gears in place. That's why people a number of people here keep on discussing the numbers of people who lost their lives. I wish if this house could even know on how sensitive safety issues are, because you can see a number of instances have been repeated, have been happening of similar cases and sort of them. For example, the issues have been happening on the water, on the aircrafts, on the roads, also at workplaces. But we are not discussing the issues of safety at workplaces. Today we concentrated on one area because of the current issue which happened. But as the representatives of the people from this community, I beg you, we need to come up with the corrective action. We need to come up with the preventive actions to make sure that whatever is happening, whatever we think that might happen in this community in terms of occupational health and safety will never happen again. I'm saying this because I'm an expert on the occupational health and safety aspect, and as a member of this house, I would like to propose this house to come up with a corrective action, not correction or immediate action to correct whatever is happening. We need to come up with something which will help all the members of this community to be safe, and not only to target on the water side. We can use this instance as an example, or as something which can set a pace for us to come up with the policies. But you cannot come up with policies if you are not implementing the system in place. Occupational health and safety directs the issue of safety awareness. We need people from this community to know exactly what might happen when they are at workplaces. For example, if I ask you, members, how far are you on the safety issues? Are we safe where we are? Is there any member knows on how you can escape from fire?
Now you make us afraid. Eh?
No. There is something called incident management and risk resolution and crisis resolution. We need to go through it. So, one member proposed we need to come with a risk assessment team, but you cannot come up with that one if the community is not implementing ISO 8000. We need to make sure that this community implements the ISO so that the whole of this community is implementing the safety issues, not only on the water side, but cutting across all the areas. By saying so, I propose that as a member of this community, we need to think on how we can implement ISO 18,000 of 2018, and also to make sure that, to ensure the pre and post inspection for these vehicles and whatever issues which deals with the people's lives is implemented in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kenneth. So, Honorable Francis, then Honorable Victor, you conclude.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the chance to add my voice to this very important motion by Honorable Young. First of all, I would like to join my fellow members to congratulate and welcome Honorable Adam to join this House. And also, I would like to thank and accept all the condolences messages from our colleagues. Thank you very much on behalf of the families and who lost their loved ones and those who survived from the accident. Right Honorable Speaker, senior members have raised issue of compensation from the government of Tanzania. This is the information that I wanted to give to all the members that raised this issue, that the government of Tanzania has already started issuing the compensation to the families of
of the people who lost their lives and to those survivors. As we speak now, 137 people from the families who lost their loved ones and the survivors have already received their compensation. So I would like to inform, Honorable Speaker is trying to ask me what compensation. You gave me only 2 minutes to just...
You just proceed. You listen to me and you notice those who are responding.
So this is I would like to inform this House that the government of Tanzania has already started giving the compensation to the families of the people who lost their lives and those survivors of MV Nyerere. So they should not worry about the compensation. And I would like to support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Fancy. Maybe to put that situation in perspective. You see, the government of Tanzania has extended and provided a certain amount of monetary support to the families. Now, compensation is a legal issue, is a legal terminology. Maybe we are not, Minister, just a minute. Compensation is a legal terminology, so maybe we are not in a position to confirm whether it is compensation or not. But thank you for the information. The fact the House is informed that the government of Tanzania has given some amount of money to the families that lost their loved ones. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Speaker, I'm sorry that I have been intervening to give some of the clarification.
We really were intervention. Yes.
Yeah, and I think you told me that you give me the time, but I think if I intervene, I have to.
After the last speaker, who I said is Honorable Victor, and I request him to be very brief, Council will respond.
Okay, let me respond later.
They will be part of your response.
Yes.
Okay, Honorable Victor.
I'll be brief, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity you give me to lend my voice to my colleagues to contribute to the debate. I will raise not to debate the motion, but just to fully support it. And I want also to condole with the people of the United Republic of Tanzania and those of the East Africa at large for the tragic incident happened in Lake Victoria in Rwanda. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Victor. So now I invite the council chair to respond, but in the process of the response, any member of the council who wants to comment can do that. So it's a shared slot for you.
Honorable Speaker, and with the permission of my chair, on behalf of the government of Tanzania and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania, I stand here humbly. Would like to express the appreciation of all the condolences which were registered today and the day before and since this tragedy had happened. We cannot express what more than saying thank you. Thank you so much on behalf of the Tanzanians who are your brothers and sisters. Honorable Speaker, I cannot say that I can go against this motion. I would like also to register the appreciation on you personally for allowing this motion to be discussed today. I can say that you have respected Tanzania as a member of AEC, but you respected Tanzanians as one of your own. On behalf of the government, I really say thank you. Honorable Speaker, I know that in the motion and the resolution which was given by the member of the Parliament of Tanzania,
it has given some of the information that is happened, and I don't want to repeat all of the information that was given. But I can say that so far, Tanzania has lost about 226 lives, but also has rescued those who are alive are 41, as I said before. And the team of rescue, which is dominated by the Prime Minister's office, is still at the place at Utara. And we can say that the government have taken several measures, short measures and also long-term measures. And among the measures which have been taken is, first of all, to form the commission, which will make an investigation and to give us what will happen, but also in establishing what will happen. As you know, that was already maintained, innovated in May this year. And we cannot say for sure that what happened. And that's why the commission has to work on the case and also give to the government the recommendation, which I'm telling you. For the fifth government, the recommendation which will be made by the commission will be taken care of. But other measures which have been taken for those officers who were in place, who were responsible there. You know that they are in the police, assisting the police to make sure that they give whatever information is required. And other measures which are technical, we have got some of the experts to assist the committee which deals with the rescue, but also the safety of minister. But for the recommendation which was made by the motion which was tabled in this assembly, what can I say? I'm an East African. I know what it means to save the life of one person, not only 200, one person. Because one person doesn't belong only to the family. He belongs to the community. It can be Tanzania, it can be Uganda, it can be Kenya, it can be Burundi, it can be Rwanda, South Sudan, and so on. So to lose one life is to lose the whole society. So I'm supporting the motion. I'm part of you. We are part of you. We work together and make sure that whatever measures which will assist in making sure that we can prevent this kind of cases to happen in the future, we support as a members of the council of NESA. Thank you.
Minister, we are the same team and the same family. Is there any other comment from the front bench? Honorable Council Chair.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank you. First, I want to welcome my brother, especially to the House, as the front bench member. Your debates will be so limited. There will be no difference from what you have been before, because here you'll also be answering questions. So we still have a bigger role to play, especially guiding the House, and also ensuring that we take up resolutions which come from the Assembly and be implemented by the Council. I want to welcome you. They're coming from both political and professional level of finance and trade. We are carrying with you very high level of expertise. But the most important thing is the issues of East African community have been part of what you have been perfecting on. Especially the common market is being implemented by the Ministers of Trade, of the Customs Union developing the vehicle that is driving it. So your guidance is definitely relevant to the community to know. I also want to register my condolences to the people of Tanzania and East Africa
large. I know the people who perished in the ferry may not be only from Tanzania, maybe East Africa, because we believe we have even bodies which have not been claimed. We never know they might be coming from any other partner state. So it is this Africa that has lost. Mr. Speaker, there were a few things which were spoken about the Victoria Transport Act 2007, and it is with low level of implementation, which would have probably by now created measures that needed a higher level of sector and rescue. There have been a lot of negotiations ongoing, which could not help the community to implement the act. And this one we have to say that the system we use here at the South African community on consensus sometimes doesn't help completely. Because one partner state will begin the process and the other partner state is not implementing, and you find a very good proposal collapses, then we end up in a situation of this nature. So there were a bit of haggling which have been going on until when we could not move. We even reached a time when we thought that we could create the breach management units across the lake, which later also was disbanded. There were changes of corruption. And now recently we have followed on the directive which was given to see that the permanent secretary should come back and try to review on how and the best method that can be done, whereby the Lake Victoria Basin Commission is trying to identify the button so that we can begin implementing the law. That's why we find the element of the experts are coming. So we believe that the program which is now ongoing by the permanent secretaries is going to guide us on the best method that we can use so that we can now have this unit on the maritime administrative unit come into force, the commission it, and also gazette the rescue, the search and rescue operation. So these are programs that are really the African community is already working on. This is the come in already the process. But the comments that have come, they are also trying to use to ensure that we fast track the programs that we have the rescue system in the lake. But if there's a dog start to make the accidents, can easily be averted. Thank
you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Engineer Mia, your response can be made brief because members have largely supported your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me another chance, and I'll be brief. Honorable Speaker, I thank all members for supporting this motion, including the council chair and the other council ministers. And please allow me to recognize them. Honorable Bogwa Simon, Honorable Dr. Oduru, Honorable George Odongo, Honorable Susan Nakauchi, Honorable Aden Abukadi, Honorable Gideon, Honorable John Cloud, Honorable Josephine, Honorable Kinga, Honorable Dr. Woda, Honorable Dr. Makame, Honorable Wanjiku, Honorable Garang Alak, Honorable Mr. Adrian Mohammed, Honorable Pamela, Honorable Francis, Honorable Victor, Honorable Council Minister Susan, and Honorable Chair Council Madan. Mr. Speaker, all the rest I mentioned, they have supported this motion. And from this regard, I have to thank, I'm thanking them very much. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to table this motion. From this standpoint, there are three members who have had their recommendation, they recommended to add value in our recommendation of this motion. Honorable Josephine, she added that she is proposing that we take the stock of all maritime laws enacted by EALA in order to address the gap and shortfall in the existing law.
You can just state whether you accept the amendments or not without having to repeat them.
This amendment, I have some reservation. The amendment of Dr. Kalinda and this amendment can be combined. And Dr. Kalinda, he recommended that we have to add that the council minister should execute Article 94 of the protocol. Of the treaty, Article 94 of the treaty. Now, if you read this Article 94 of the treaty, Honorable Chair, it is saying that the partner states harmonize their inland waterways transport policies and shall adopt, harmonize, and simplify rules, regulations, and administration procedures governing waterways transport on their common navigable inland waterways. And then there's the BTD and so on and so forth. So if you read this properly, together with the Honorable Josephine suggestion, in fact, we can add that all maritime laws from the partner states should be harmonized as per Article 94 of the treaty. Honorable Dr. Warder, she recommended that we have to include that also aviation matters should be included in order that we can safeguard the lives of East African citizens. Honorable Josephine also.
Everything will be clear. The first amendment, my Honorable Josephine, do you accept it or not?
I accept inclusion together with what is you mentioned in the treaty.
Which possible? So basically you accept it?
I accept. From those proposals, also she proposed that to conduct an oversight assessment on LGBC, particularly with regard to projects and rectifying to maritime safety. Actually, this is included in the Lake Victoria Transport Act of 2007, so there is no need. This is included. From this standpoint.
And about the proposal by Dr. Warder, did you accept or not?
I accepted Dr. Warder as a proposal.
Okay. So you accepted those two amendments. Now, honorable members, the motion before the House is that this assembly condoles with the government and people of the United Republic of Tanzania on the tragic loss of lives as a result of deadly ferry incident in Mwanza, Lake Victoria on Thursday, 20th September 2018. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. There is a proposal that Honorable Dr. Makame made, and I wanted it handled a bit separately. So I don't know how we will proceed. Does 50 make sense? 50? No, in practical terms, it will be difficult how to organize with the Honorable Adam?
Honorable Speaker, thank you. Let me thank Honorable Makame for that proposal. I think in good gesture of this House and our commitment to stand with our brothers who have been befallen by this tragedy, I think a proposal of contribution by each member of $50 is very reasonable an amount. And I think we should be able to do that as others. Thank you.
Okay. So in the smooth flow of things, in order for Abela to be able to help us, we can say 50, but those who want to contribute more can approach her. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Minimum 50. It can be more if you talk to her. Is that okay? Well, thank you so much, honorable members. I thank you for the manner you have contributed to the agenda of the order paper we had today. I had joined the House at this moment, and I understand that it is not yet too late to go and do our practice. So the House is adjourned until tomorrow at 2:30.
You go and read the ice.